Welcome to our Halachah Class number 18. I know we were not here yesterday, but we're here today. And hopefully somebody was still available to watch. Give it another few moments. I know it's late at night, but in Lubavitch, Thursday night was called Leil Shishi. Thursday night was the night that the guys would stay up in yeshiva, learn Torah. So we're trying to have the feeling. Sometimes I get into the mood. And these classes are all recorded, so I'm not worried. I'm sorry if any of you wanted to watch it while we're live and are not available. But definitely all these classes are saved and recorded, and you can watch them at any time as you wish. Give me 1 second. I'm just gonna quickly give others the opportunity to watch if they are available. Therefore, we're reconnected. So you should be able to see us on YouTube as well now. And we'll give it another second so the YouTube people could get back on if they were trying to connect. And any questions, please ask in the comments below. Just to preface this week's Parshas Truma, and this Tuesday is Moshe Rabbeinu's birthday and Yortzeit, and it's a very, very special time for on such a day to celebrate. Number one, for a person to pass away and be born on the same day is special, as is, especially that we're talking about Moshe Rabbeinu, the leader of the generation. And in every generation, there is that leader that leads us, that is the Moshe Rabbeinu of that time. And in our time, the Rebbe was that leader, and especially guides world Jewry till this very day, inspires the world till this very day, even after his life. And that is a big blessing. And we have his gravesite just around the corner, which is also a blessing. So it's a time to reflect and make good resolutions, say l'chaim, and take upon ourselves new mitzvahs in honor of Moshe Rabbeinu's birthday in Yortzeit. And I would say the best place to do that is by the Rebbe's resting place. Or if you can't go there, at least go to your local synagogue, or do something nice with your families to celebrate and do another mitzvah. That is Tuesday. And the Shabbos is Shabbos Parshas Truma. The Shabbos before that, it's also very special to say l'chaim and to meditate and daven and learn, etc. And especially because of what the Shabbos is all about, tells us even more so how important it is to be focused. The first words of the pasuk, the portion says "V'yikhol li truma." We shared a video this past week. V'yikhol li truma, it talks about all the donations that were given. It says Vayikholi. It says that the Jewish people had to bring donations. It says V'yikholi truma. It says take for me truma. Take for me donations. It doesn't say give. It says take. And the explanation is by a great sage. He said that the reason why it says take is because when you're giving donations, actually you're taking, you're benefiting, you're getting the blessing. It is, it's not a favor, it's something beautiful that you're doing for yourself. And that's why this portion teaches us about the concept of giving, but not giving in a way that you're losing, you're taking away from yourself, but on the contrary, you're only gaining. And that's something very special that sometimes we don't always realize. And sometimes we think, the rabbi's just saying it because he needs money. But here you see the portion is teaching us a very, very important mitzvah, and the mitzvah is a mitzvah just like any mitzvah, and it's just like all the other mitzvahs we have to keep. This is another mitzvah that we have to do our best to keep. We have to tithe, and we have to give tzedakah, and we have no This is not it's not something we could say, oh, this mitzvah is important. Keeping Shabbos is important, but giving tzedakah is if I want. No. Giving tzedakah is just as a mitzvah as keeping Shabbos. So all the beautiful things we say about tzedakah saves us from death. Tzedakah brings the geula, the redemption. Tzedakah does a lot of beautiful things. So, and specifically about tzedakah, we're taught. And the Rebbe also, once we're talking about tzedakah, the Rebbe also said that defining tzedakah as charity, like we translated in the English version, is not precise, and is not precise, and the Rebbe says it's not considered charity. Charity means you're doing an extra thing, you're doing more than you have to. No, tzedakah is righteousness. Tzedakah is the right thing to do. It's a mitzvah, and even more important than other mitzvahs in a way. And it's a very special mitzvah, a very humanitarian aid type mitzvah, a mitzvah volunteer, which ends up being a lot of times voluntarily, things that not necessarily you're getting paid for, right? When you do these types of mitzvahs, it's a very, very special mitzvah, the mitzvah of tzedakah, and it's an obligation at the same time. So it has a lot of beautiful concepts to it that the whole world sees beautiful, and it's something we shouldn't look at as just a favor or something extra, but it's righteousness. It's the right thing to do. So that's the concept of tzedakah. That's the concept of this week about truma. You're always welcome to make a donation of your choice to our Chabad outreach. All the beautiful things we do here at Chabad doesn't end. We're constantly doing things throughout the week. If you look at our Facebook pages alone, you might see some of the stuff we do, and it's probably not even a part of it's possibly only a part of what we do. There's so much more that we do in action, live in action. If you want to be part of any of those things, you want to reach out and you want to be part of it, please let us know. Tzedakah comes in all shapes and forms. It doesn't only have to be out of the money of your pocket. Obviously, there's the obligations of tithing, which consists of those things, and tzedakah in general, which consists of putting a penny in the charity box. But tzedakah could come in many different forms, in forms of helping, forms of assistance, forms of voluntarily coming to cook in the kitchen, to buy the groceries, to assist with the rabbi in the administrative work, whatever it may be. If there's anything that you want to do, whether it's an adult, a teenager, or grown up that wants to volunteer, especially for the teenagers, they get special credits in school, the hours, and we could give them that. But it's the mitzvah, and you're welcome to reach out and let us know, and we will definitely do whatever we can to help you be part of it. So that's that. We're going to get straight to the learning. The learning we're holding by is 14 in Siman, in section 9. Section 9, paragraph 14. It's talking about the mitzvah of tzitzis, and we will get started. I'm just going to turn this a little bit so everyone could get a little bit of a glimpse. You could see the other camera as well. Probably not ideal to have it in the picture. Okay, so we are ready to rock and roll. On that note, this week's just a second before we start, before I forget, the Shabbos is like we said, Parshas Truma, and therefore we're doing also a special Shabbos. Like every week we do a special Shabbos. Every week there is never a week at Chabad that there's no celebration. This Shabbos is in honor of Moshe Rabbeinu, in honor of Parshas Truma, and we're going to be celebrating here. We're going to have a Kiddush. We already have sponsors lined up. People are picking their products that they want to chip in with, whether it's the herring or the drinks or the challah or the cakes or the cholent. So thank God we already have a lineup. We're still missing a few things. If anyone wants to contribute in honor of this week's portion, you're welcome to at chabadfhn.com/donate. And we thank all our kind sponsors. You know who you are, and we will mention you again shortly. But please come to daven with us. We're going to start with a class at 9:30. We're going to daven at 10. with Torah reading as well as a kids experience that happens every week here. This is every week we have this, and we have every week followed by a kiddush lunch someone sponsors, and you're all welcome, men, women, and children. Please be our guests, and it's really the community that makes it beautiful. So we need more of you guys. So please, it's beautiful, and we want it to be even more. On that note, it says in paragraph 14, it says, the strings of the tzitzis, they have to be tied, or I should say weaved. Welcome to all our viewers. Hi, Levi. The strings of the tzitzis, they have to be entwined, or weaved, I should say. So we're talking about each tzitzis by itself. That each tzitzis by itself has to have the weave in it. It's not that we have to weave all eight strings, or I should say all 4 strings. Weave them together. That's a different thing we speak about. But here we're talking about each string for itself has a weaving in it, if you notice. So that's something also very important to know. And he says like this: if one of the strings is missing its weave in it, then what does the Halachah say? The Halachah says any part that is unweaved like that, it's as if it's cut, and then it's not kosher to begin with. And it's a problem. So the Mishnah Berurah says as well that, in fact, as much as we say that it could be considered as if it was cut and it's not good enough, we, however, could say that it's also considered like it's also considered okay if it was doubled and tripled, and then it got undone a little bit, so then it's not fully undone. So you could take the same string and you could make these weavings in it more than twice, more than doubled. It could be tripled in 4 times, up to 8 times. So in those cases, we won't be so concerned. However, in a case where we are, in a case where we are going to do it in such a way that it has 4 to 8 times, that it's rolled together and it undid, we won't be so concerned. But if it was only done doubled, then when it does, it's like it is cut, and then each string is a problem. Paragraph 15. Tasav liminasi. What if a talus was cut into 2 pieces? The talus. And we learned a law that says that you have to make it. You have to make the talis, and that it shouldn't be from something that was already done. So he says like this. What does that mean? And we learned about it already before. Talis, shesh tzitzis, talis that had tzitzis talis already affixed to it. Yeah, that's how the talis came. And it was divided into two pieces. It is commonly done with many of our talis garments, which are made of two attached pieces of cloth. Occasionally are taken apart clean or to fix the talis. And then afterwards it's fixed or clean the pieces and reconnect by sewing. So what happens in such a case? Given the mistama, since usually each part is large enough to wrap oneself in it, and it's still obligated in tzitzis. Therefore, it is sufficient if one removes two tzitzis tassels, whichever part he wishes. And after he puts the tassels back together, to retie the tzitzis tassels that were removed. And that's what he's saying. He's saying like this. In essence, the whole concept of a talis is, like we mentioned at the beginning, that a talis is specifically a talis that has four corners. Then it's obligated in tzitzis. That was what we learned, if you'll remember. So he's saying sometimes what happens is when you when you have to wash the talis, it doesn't really happen today. We don't do that. But there was a time, I guess, the halacha says that they were doing it this way. They would even disconnect two parts of the talis and put them back together afterwards. But he says that in those times when they were disconnected, they still had the measurement of a talis that was obligated in tzitzis, and it had four corners. So what is he saying? He's saying because there's a law that teaches us. What's the law? The law is that you shouldn't do tasa. You should make it. And it shouldn't be v'loy, and it shouldn't be something that was, the obligation is it should be something that he had to make. But in a case where what happened? He had two sides of the talis. They were cut. And after the talis is put back together, he should retie the tzitzis tassels that were removed. Why? Because since both parts of the garment remained garments that were obligated in tzitzis, there's no need to remove all the tzitzis tassels before we connect the two pieces. Avol, however, if each part of the talis after the talis was divided does not have by itself, it doesn't have enough material with which to wrap oneself in it. One must remove all the tzitzis strings, because the pieces were separated. Each side became exempt from the obligation of affixing tzitzis to it due to its small size. Now, after the two parts were joined together again, and then it became obligated in tzitzis, and the garment again became large enough to require tzitzis. If the original tzitzis would have been left on, because of exactly that, because then it's going to be tzitzis that were already affixed to it when it became a garment. Because we said you shall make it and not use that which was already made. You should make it, and being that now it's obligated in tzitzis, it shouldn't be from made. Now you have to do it again. That's why he says, if it was already a garment after he disconnected them, he already had the obligation. It already had the obligation of tzitzis even when he disconnected them because they were large enough. So that's why he says he should make sure that he should take off two. Take off two. It says take off two of the tzitzis. What does he say? He says, and after talis is put back together, you should retire the two the tzitzis tassels that were removed. Meaning to say, it was okay. There was no, the talus still remained the talus. Everything still stayed the same. Once the talus is disconnected from being a talus, and now he has to do it, make it a talus, so then we say tasa v'liminasi. But once the talus was a talus, so it could be minasi. And it's not a problem. So that's why he's saying that there it was an issue. But when it was smaller than the size, so there it's very important that he should remove all of them before he puts them back together. After he puts them, they should make sure that they're removed. You might ask, why does he have to remove even the two based on this theory, right? If it's already a talus and it stayed a talus, he didn't make anything new, so we don't have to be concerned. So why does he have to take off even the two? Why is the two that he says before the fetish, for sure he must take off? What's going on here? So he says, both tzitzis tassels must be removed from at least one parts of the talus, because to simply reconnect two pieces, each one with two tzitzis tassels, would violate the precept of tassel, and also you shall make it and not use that which is already made. The two tzitzis of one of the pieces must be removed and tied back after the talus can be reconnected. In this way, we say that the part upon which it remained was the main part of the talus, and the other part is an addition to the talus. This avoids the problem of using that which is already made. Mishnah disputes this and writes that although it is ideal to remove the tzitzis from one side, as above, it is not strictly necessary, since according to most authorities, this case is not a problem of using that which is already made, right? Which we would initially say. But he's saying that because we say one of them is not really the talus anymore. So now he's making it into a talus. One of them he's making into a talus. Right? One is the main one, and one is he's making into a talus. And the one that he's making into a talus, that's why at least he should take off two. But the Mishnah Berurah argues and says that it's not true, meaning they're both a talus, and therefore it's not an issue. What mainly is concerning is when he has smaller parts, and that's when he has smaller parts. Both of them are not a talus. Now he has to make sure to take them off. So when he puts them together, they're not being made from what's already done. He's doing it from scratch, basically. He's taking them all off and starting again. Why? Because he's making a new talus. He's forming a new thing. It wasn't a talus anymore. Now he's forming a new thing. For questions, please ask. It sounds maybe a little bit like a riddle. I know I might not explain myself very well. I am also a little tired. I'm sorry. It's maybe my fault. Forgive. Then he says like this. What if one part has the amount that needs for a talus, and the other one doesn't after he rips them off? So now one of them is not a talus anymore. So what does he say? He says like this: once you remove the tzitzis, you should remove the tzitzis from the one that doesn't have you should remove this from one that doesn't. Why? Because based on the same thing that we're learning here. Because when it doesn't have any more the amount of a talus, it's not any more talus. Now he's going to form it back by putting it back together. When he's forming it back to put it back together, it has to be made from scratch. Tasa. You have to make it not from what was already done. And there's no machlikas about it. There, it's obvious. Whereas when you're doing it with two sides that are both even Steven, and they both have the size of a talus, there was an argument, like we mentioned before. We're holding by paragraph 16. Paragraph 16. The corner of the talus was cut or torn. Yeah, every talus has a corner to it. Okay. The corner was ripped, such as that it was separate completely from the talus. And the piece that was severed measures less than 3 thumb breadths by 3 thumb breadths. Some say that is severed this piece. I feel like even after you put it back on securely, but it's forbidden to put on it tzitzis. Because or since the piece when separated did not measure 3 thumb breadths by 3 thumb breadths, and allow shem baguette. So even if he puts it together now, it doesn't have the amount of a baguette to be mechuyev in it. They have to put tzitzis on it. Even now, if it's connected to the talus, it's considered separate. And he says it is the Shulchan Aruch, the abbreviated version of the Shulchan Aruch is telling us here. It's proper to be stringent and follow this opinion. And if it ripped, and the amount that was ripped was less than less than 3 thumb breadths by 3 thumb breadths, it doesn't have a shame bag, it doesn't have the classification of a garment upon it. And when do we say it's mechuyev and tzitzis? You're allowed to put tzitzis on it only when it's a garment, because now it doesn't have a concept of a garment. Even if you put it back, and now you could say for the whole garment, it's part of a whole garment, which is a big garment. It doesn't matter, because we consider it a part, and we consider that, and therefore he's not allowed to put tzitzis on it, which is a big deal. It's a big chiddush, what we say, a fact that maybe we would have thought otherwise. And therefore, it's not obligated. This garment no longer is obligated in tzitzis on that end. He's not allowed to put it on that anymore. On that part, it's considered like separated, and it's as if he's putting it on a separated piece that is not considered a garment. But if that piece that was cut or torn, not separate completely from the talus, right? This piece that didn't cut off totally was hanging a little bit. It was a little bit hanging. He says that when he's going to put it back on, he's going to put it back properly. It's going to be considered part of the talus. Why? Because it's still connected partially. And after that anything that'll put on there afterwards, it has the classification of a baguette. And it's going to be considered kosher. And it's also customary to sew that piece of cloth, the kanafei talus. onto each corner of the talis mishum dar bahar baby garden, because many garments afil chadashim, even new ones, yesh ben chatichs mechabaris, have some smaller pieces attached onto the corners shein bahen shleish gedolon that are smaller than the minimum of 3 by 3 thumb breadths, and therefore he's saying he's asking that basically we should put, because of this issue, he's asking that we should put on corners 3 by 3, because a lot of garments today are coming with these like it was, I guess it was then, it was like a cool thing that you had this extra piece of material attached, but it wasn't 3 by 3, and therefore it didn't have a, again, based on what we said, it doesn't have a classification of a garment. You can't put tzitzis on it. So therefore he's saying, because of this issue, make sure to add to this garment 3 by 3, more than 3 by 3, so it should be 3 by 3 at least, it should have the classification of a garment, so you should be able to put tzitzis on it. Because garments sometimes, even when they're new and coming, they're coming with this connected piece that's less, and then it's the same issue like we said before, and you can't put tzitzis on it. Therefore he's asking that we should put on the amount that makes it kosher, so we should be able to have tzitzis on it. Yeah. And therefore, therefore, on the place where the strings will be affixed, they put on a piece of cloth that measures 3 by 3 bronas, 3 thumb breadths by 3 thumb breadths. 3 thumb breadths by 3 thumb breadths. It's a tongue twister. Okay, we're holding by paragraph 17. Paragraph 17. We're going to stop here. We're going to stop over here. Okay, we're going to stop here. We're going to go short today. Thank you all for watching, and have a Shabbat Shalom. As well, you're welcome, anyone who would like to dedicate a class in honor or memory of a loved one, you're welcome to, on a weekly basis, and you could be in touch with us, and we will make sure to mention the dedication before we start the class. As well, we will be doing our 5 on 5 with the rabbi as well, weekly, like we've been doing now for already 4 weeks, and got a lot of feedback, good feedback, and that as well on this nice video production and weekly Torah takeaway. We welcome you to give a dedication, and we will write it and mention it as well in the video broadcast. So stay tuned for that for this week as well. And we're getting ready for Purim, so stay tuned for that. It's going to be coming out very shortly, our program. It's been already advertised in our calendar, but nevertheless, more details will follow, and for RSVP, etc. And many more exciting things to come. So have a Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you all for watching, and have a great night ahead.